Hey, good morning, guys. Welcome to Market Mondays. I apologize for the last Market Mondays I just did, and I just was told that the audio was terrible. I went back, and you're right, it was horrendous. So I'm redoing the video because a lot of you guys wanted the information. So I appreciate the feedback. I appreciate people actually listening to me. So it's a wonder. Sometimes I just do these things, and hopefully it works out. And yeah, so far people are enjoying it. So redoing the information about the misleading jobs report. I'm gonna redo my dad joke as well. So, if math is mathematical and quizzes are quizzical, what are tests? All right. So, getting right into it. So, last Friday, the jobs report came out, and the headline was kind of confusing, honestly. Uh, it showed that we had about 353 job gains, right? And the expectation was 180. So we almost doubled. And when I say 180 or 350, I mean 353,000. Expected was 180,000. Now, what's really interesting is you go further into the report and you really notice that there's something really strange about it. The other big thing to really note about it is that the actual job net loss in job losses or job gains was an actual loss of 2.635 million jobs. 2.6, almost 2.7, 2.6 million jobs lost. So where did they come up with the 2.9 to give us the positive 353? It's something called a seasonal adjustment. Seasonal adjustment is something they kind of just throw in there, a keystroke, to kind of accommodate for seasonal adjustments, seasonal changes, school schedules, differences in like gig workers and seasonal jobs and things like that. So they added just an extra 2.9 million, almost 3 million jobs in there to show a positive, to present a positive improvement in the labor market, almost double than what was expected. And that's kind of a big issue because where did you find the actual 2.9? And this is a kind of a change over year, 2.6 million jobs. That's a lot of jobs to be lost. So why is that really important? Because when there's a lot of investors, hedge fund managers, people who are moving billions and millions of dollars across certain investments that impact our economy, they're seeing reports like this and responding to it accordingly. So what they're seeing is that, oh, our job for labor market is really, really strong. I don't have to put my money in safe investments. I can put it into the companies who are hiring more people. Well, they're not. If you guys have been involved with the economy at all, you know that people are losing their jobs, getting laid off, going down to part-time gigs, so on and so forth. So they're taking, and as they're selling off these safer investments like bonds, mortgage-backed securities, as they continue to sell this off, buy stocks and, riskier investments, the sell-off of those mortgage investments causes rates to go higher. And that's exactly what we saw last Friday when this report came out, is that we saw this. It's not now, I wouldn't say it was a big jump, but it was a noticeable jump in mortgage rates. Now rates went from like 6.5 to about 7-ish, high sixes, low sevens in a matter of a couple days. And that's how much it's moved in just 3 or 4 days. The other thing to note is that the BLS jobs report also showed that the average hourly earnings went up by 0.6%. Now, this is a national average, and any move of about 0.5% or higher is a big move. And the year-over-year number from last January went from 4.1 to 4.5, right? Still a relatively big change. Now, here's what's interesting about those numbers. So again, a lot of the people who saw the headline, they saw, okay, we have 353,000 job gains versus what was expected 180, which is again not really a true number. The next thing is that they saw was that people were making more money. Also, not quite true at all either. So the other part of how much money you make is actually how much money you take home on a weekly basis. Sure, you can get paid $50 an hour, but if you only work 20 hours a week, you wouldn't be maximizing all that income, right? Maximizing your 40-hour work week. So what actually happened is that the average weekly earnings stayed the same, even though average hourly earnings went up. So what has to happen in order for the weekly earnings, the money you actually take home on a weekly basis or even bi-weekly basis, to show that your earnings stay the same, but your hourly earnings went up. Well, it means that the amount of hours you worked actually went down. So if you think it from a salary perspective, some of those people are getting paid salary. What actually happened is that they were if you look at it mathematically, they worked less hours, which means their hourly earnings went up, but because they didn't work as much, their average weekly earnings stayed the same. So that's essentially what's happening over the course of the last month, is that the average hour worked is less, which means there's less work to be done. Now, another thing to note is that if you look at the average weekly earnings, it went from 3.8 from last year, January of 2023, to 3%. That's almost a percent change, which is a big number. The other thing to kind of keep in mind of is that last year in January of 2023, the average weekly hours worked was 34.6. So it's almost, the average weekly hours has gone down by 0.5%, right? And if you take that 0.5, that loss in time, that less time that's not being worked, if you multiply that by the labor force, that's about 2.4 million jobs lost since January 2023. And that almost is more in line to the job losses that we see in 2.6 million jobs lost. So think about that. And again, the reason why this is important is because our economy, the labor force, the job market is not doing as good as the headlines say. I heard a top politician talk about how their Biden economics is working, and I'm like, and then if you look at this report, it's actually not working. Actually, it's doing the opposite. It's going the opposite direction. Now, I don't really think it has to do anything with the presidential policy. I just think it has to do with the ebb and flow of the economy. But for them to take credit, I thought was kind of silly, because it's not what's actually true. We are in a declining labor force, and I have some people I know that are having trouble finding jobs and also working less hours. So that's what's really tough is about these reports are definitely I wouldn't say the report itself is misleading, but what the media is telling us is not true. Sure, it is true in some aspects, but what the actual reason for it is generally the opposite. It's almost like it's like you're lying to yourself that you're okay when you definitely are not okay. So basically, as a nation, the media is lying to ourselves. Is kind of what's essentially happening, which is kind of a strange concept to think, but it's very, very important to know that this is what's happening to the economy, and this is in the jobs report. So this is something you can see. It's not that it's hidden. It's just a lot of information, a lot of numbers. Obviously, people try to summarize and pick out the right information, but most of the time they're just picking the information that helps their ratings or whatever have you. So what's being presented out to you is definitely manipulated, which is really unfortunate. So hopefully that gives you guys some insight as how our economy is doing. Here's where the current average mortgage rate is. Again, this is not, this is generated by Google. This is the information that's presented by the average rates across all companies, across the entire nation, on all lending platforms. Average rate is about where we're seeing right now. You can kind of see the chart went up from the beginning of February to a little bit higher now. Again, high 6s, low 7s. Today it was an improvement from the other couple days, but I do think this is kind of a blip, and I think mortgage rates will still continue to get better and head toward the 5.5 range as we all expected. Anyway, hopefully the audio on this is a lot better. You guys can hear me a lot clearer. Otherwise, let me know if you guys have any other feedback. I really appreciate it. I'm more than happy to redo some of these videos if I have to. Otherwise, that's all I got. Nuke out.